There's a word at the deli counter that sells you Italy without ever leaving America. Prosciutto, mortadella, capicola. You read it, you taste home, you pay a little more. Here's what nobody tells you at that case. Most of those words are protected by nothing. Anybody can stamp them on a package, and the pork inside can come from a warehouse in Rhode Island or a plant in California that never once touched Italy. I read every label at the counter myself. 8 Italian meats that never crossed the ocean, and 3 that actually did. Let's get into it. This story doesn't start at the deli slicer. It starts with one law most shoppers have never heard of, and it explains every single name on this list. In Italy, the real names are locked. Prosciutto di Parma, Mortadella Bologna, Coppa di Parma. Those carry a European protection called DOP or IGP. And by law, they can only be made in one specific place by one specific method, or they cannot use the name at all. But strip the place off and you're left with the plain words prosciutto, salami, mortadella, capicola, soppressata, and those belong to nobody. There's no law anywhere that stops a factory in Ohio from calling its product prosciutto and selling it next to the real thing. Only a short list of Italian cured meats ever earned that place-based protection. Names like Prosciutto di Parma, Prosciutto di San Daniele, Mortadella Bologna, Coppa di Parma, Capicola di Calabria. Everything else at the counter is fair game for anybody. And it gets deeper, because for more than 20 years, real Italian cured pork was banned from this country outright over a swine disease scare. American companies stepped in to fill that gap with their own version, and when the ban finally lifted, they simply never stopped. So a whole country learned the Italian word from the American copy. The word came from Italy, the meat mostly didn't. I'm counting these down from the ones that only mildly surprised people to the one that honestly made me put my hand over my mouth, starting now. Number 8, Genoa salami. This is the one that sounds like it walked straight off a boat from an Italian port city, Genoa. You picture the harbor, the old town, a Nonna hanging salami to dry in a stone cellar. That picture is doing all the work and almost none of it is real. Genoa salami is an American product. The name describes a style: coarse ground pork, garlic, red wine, black and white pepper. Not a place on any map. It carries no protected designation of origin whatsoever, which means it can legally be produced anywhere on Earth, and the overwhelming majority of it is made right here in the States. There is a genuine cured salami from that region of Italy, and it goes by a completely different name: Salame Genovese di Sant'Olcese. That's the one actually from Genoa. The one in your deli case just borrowed the postcard and left the town behind. So when you see the word Genoa on a salami label, read it as a recipe. It's telling you how the meat was seasoned. It's telling you nothing at all about where it was born. And the next one isn't just made in America. It doesn't even exist in Italy. Number 7, pepperoni. I know, this one stings because it feels like the most Italian thing you could ever put on a pizza. But walk into a pizzeria in Rome and ask for pepperoni, and there's a good chance you'll get a plate of bell peppers, because pepperoni, spelled with 1 P, is simply the Italian word for peppers. The spicy red sausage you're picturing was invented by Italian immigrants in New York City, and the first written record of it shows up around 1919. They took the old sausage craft they'd carried over from the old country, added American paprika and chili, and created something brand new that had never existed back home. The food historians are blunt about it. Pepperoni is about as Italian as chicken parmesan, which is to say, it isn't. You cannot find it under that name across most of Italy to this day. So the single most American pizza topping there is happens to be wearing an Italian costume, and generation after generation of us never once stopped to question it. If you ever want the closest, honest cousin over there, you ask for salami picante. Different sausage, but at least the name isn't pretending. Now, the next one is the one your favorite mob show made a household word. Number 6, capicola, or, as a certain television crime family famously pronounced it, gabagool. It's pork neck or shoulder, dry cured, seasoned, and sliced whisper thin, and it is delicious. In Italy, the real versions are protected and locked tight to their home regions. Capicola di Calabria carries a DOP, Coppa di Parma carries an IGP, and by law, that one has to be made from pigs actually raised in the region and aged at least 60 days before anyone can sell it under that name. But the capicola sitting in your average American deli case, it carries none of that protection. It's a generic domestic cold cut wearing an Italian word that, back home, would trigger an inspection if a producer misused it. Over here, misusing it triggers absolutely nothing, because the plain word is free for the taking. So here's your move at the counter, and it works every time. Look for the place name attached to it. Capicola di Calabria means something real. Coppa di Parma means something real. But capicola standing all alone, with no region and no seal anywhere on the package, is just a shape and a spice blend that a machine in New Jersey can turn out by the ton. And speaking of machines turning it out by the ton, the next name has built an entire premium empire on simply looking Italian. Number 5, Columbus Craft Meats. Walk down the fancy end of the deli aisle, and you'll spot it right away. The elegant lettering, the old-world crest, the word salumi. The whole package designed to whisper a hill town somewhere in Tuscany. Now, Columbus was genuinely founded back in 1917 by Italian immigrants in San Francisco, so that piece of the heritage is real. But that founding family sold the business decades ago, and today Columbus is owned by Hormel Foods, the same corporation that makes Spam, which snapped it up in 2017 for $850 million. The salami you're holding in your hand is made in Hayward, California, aged in an American facility, and sold under a logo that the company deliberately redesigned to lean even harder into that Italian look, right down to the classic Italian typeface. Not one thing about it crosses the Atlantic. It's Bay Area pork wearing a Tuscan font. And here's the detail that tells you exactly where the priorities really sit. In early 2026, Hormel announced it was closing the historic Hayward plant that had been producing that very salami for over a century and shifting the work elsewhere in its supply chain. The Old World crest stays right there on the package. The Old World itself is quietly leaving the building. By now, about the only Italian thing left in it is the crest they print on the front. And the next one hides its American address inside a name that is genuinely, authentically Italian. Number 4, Mortadella. That big, rosy pink slice with the little white squares of fat running through it. The one plenty of people affectionately call the fancy bologna. And honestly, they're closer to the truth than they realize because in America, that's very nearly what it is. The real thing, Mortadella Bologna, earned its European protected status all the way back in 1998, and by law, it can only be produced in specific regions of Italy, from carefully selected pork, cubes of throat fat, whole peppercorns, cooked slowly for hours in dry air ovens. But here's the part that genuinely got me. Real Italian mortadella was flat out banned from import into the United States until the year 2000, over that same swine disease fear I mentioned earlier. So for almost the entire last century, if you were eating mortadella anywhere in this country, you were eating an American factory version. And for most shoppers, you still are. Boar's Head mortadella, Columbus mortadella, the anonymous deli counter mortadella, all of it made here on American soil. The rosy pink slice that tastes to you like a little piece of bologna has, for the vast majority of Americans, never once been anywhere near bologna. So flip that package over. If it doesn't clearly say Mortadella Bologna and carry that yellow and red seal, What you're holding is the domestic first cousin of bologna with a much prettier name. Now, the next one is a brand that careful shoppers are absolutely certain is imported. Number 3, Citterio. This is the one that fools the smart shoppers, the ones who actually bother to flip the package looking for a real Italian name. And here's the thing, Citterio is a real Italian name. The company was founded in Italy in 1878, and that heritage is completely genuine. But the prosciutto, the salami, the mortadella, the coppa, sold under the Citterio label in American grocery stores, the great majority of it is produced in Freeland, Pennsylvania, up in the Pocono Mountains, in a plant the company opened back in 1974. And they'll tell you exactly why they picked that spot. It was the cool, dry mountain air. By their own description, that Pennsylvania facility is the single largest structure in the entire United States built purely for making cured ham. So the label is Italian, the founder was Italian, the pork is Pennsylvanian. Now, nobody is breaking the law here. It's just not what the shopper standing at the counter thinks they're buying. Here's how you catch it every time. Turn the package all the way over and read the small manufacturing print, the actual line that says where it was made, not the big, beautiful Italian name up top. You are looking for 3 words, product of Italy. If instead you find the name of a town in Pennsylvania, you now know precisely what you're holding, and precisely what you just paid an import price to get. Real quick, if this is helping you shop the deli a little smarter, take 1 second and subscribe. I go down a different aisle every single week, and I'm telling you, the deli case is where the words lie the most. All right, these last 2 go the deepest of all, because these are the 2 words we trust the very most. Number 2, prosciutto, the king of the entire deli case. Thin, delicate, silky, draped over melon at every nice summer party. And the single word prosciutto, standing on its own, is protected by absolutely nothing at all. It literally just means dried ham. That's precisely why an American company can cure a pig leg in a warehouse in the middle of nowhere and legally call the result prosciutto. And they do exactly that in enormous volume. There's a company called Daniele down in Rhode Island that has been producing American prosciutto since the 1970s, sold under all sorts of familiar store labels, cured right there in New England. Newspapers have literally run the headline, an all-American prosciutto cured in Rhode Island. And remember that import ban I keep coming back to? For roughly 20 years, from the late 1960s until 1989, real Prosciutto di Parma was locked completely out of this country. An entire generation of Americans grew up genuinely believing prosciutto meant the domestic version hung to dry in warehouses in Virginia and Missouri, because for 2 decades, that was the only prosciutto they were legally allowed to have, and the habit simply stuck. So at the counter, your test is dead simple and it is ruthless. Read the ingredient list. Authentic Prosciutto di Parma contains exactly 2 things, pork and salt. That's it. If your prosciutto instead lists dextrose, sodium nitrite, and a starter culture, it was assembled in a plant. It was not aged in the hills of Parma. And that brings us all the way to number 1, a name that might be the single most trusted brand in the entire refrigerated case. And that trust is exactly where the problem lives. Number 1, Boar's Head. This is the premium counter brand, the one shoppers point to and say, oh, that one? That's the good stuff. Their Italian line is right there in the case. Prosciutto, mortadella, capicola, Genoa salami, soppressata, every bit of it wrapped in that clean, high-end, trust-me packaging. And every bit of it is made in America. Boar's Head is headquartered in Sarasota, Florida, and there is nothing Italian whatsoever about the supply chain sitting behind all those Italian names. But the reason this brand lands at number 1 has nothing to do with the marketing. It's what came out of one of its plants. In 2024, Boar's Head deli meat was tied to the deadliest listeria outbreak this country had seen since 2011. 10 people died. 61 were sickened across 19 different states. The company recalled more than 7 million pounds of product. And when federal inspectors went inside the Jarrett, Virginia plant at the center of it all, they documented mold, mildew, insects, and meat residue smeared on the walls. Conditions they literally described as general filth. with dozens of separate non-compliance findings stacking up over the prior year. Now, to be fair and precise, the specific product that carried that outbreak was liverwurst, not the Italian line. But the trust you handed this brand, the extra dollars you paid for that beautiful premium package, was flowing to a company whose own inspection records read like a warning that nobody acted on for years. And not one single slice of that Italian-looking meat ever came from Italy. You reached for the fanciest name in the whole case, specifically because you believed it was the safe one. The plant records say otherwise. That's the one that stayed with me. So that's the 8. Now let me show you the 3 that actually earned the Italian name. The 3 genuinely worth every extra dollar, because these cross the ocean and can prove it on the label. Best option number 3, Mortadella Bologna. And this time, I mean the real protected article. This is the one made only in designated regions of Italy, from carefully selected pork and cubes of throat fat, seasoned with whole peppercorns, and, in the classic version, studded with pistachios. Then cooked low and slow for hours in hot air ovens. It carries that yellow and red IGP seal. And that seal is not decoration. It's a legal promise that at least one crucial stage of its making happened in that exact protected place, under strict written rules. Remember, this was banned from America entirely until the year 2000, which means it's genuinely something your grandparents in the States could not buy at any price. Now you can. Look for the 2 words Mortadella Bologna together, with that seal right beside them, and you will never confuse it with the pink imposter again. Best option number 2, Prosciutto di San Daniele. This one comes from the town of San Daniele del Friuli, up in Italy's northeastern corner, where the mountain air off the Alps meets the breeze coming up from the Adriatic. That specific microclimate is the entire point. It's why the law says the ham can only be cured right there and nowhere else. And like its more famous cousin, that law allows it exactly 2 ingredients: Italian pork and sea salt. No nitrates, no nitrites, no sugar, no starter culture, nothing else permitted anywhere in the process. It runs a touch darker and a touch sweeter than Parma, and the people who truly know their prosciutto will argue for San Daniele until the sun comes up. When you spot the full name, Prosciutto di San Daniele, sitting next to a 2-ingredient label, you are holding something that has been made the exact same honest way for centuries, in one tiny corner of one country. Nobody else on earth is legally allowed to borrow that name. The law simply won't let them. Best option number 1, Prosciutto di Parma, the crown, quite literally. This is the one the entire deli counter has been imitating this whole time. And it also happens to be the very easiest of all to verify, because the genuine article is fire-branded with a 5-pointed ducal crown and the word Parma stamped directly into the skin of the ham. No crown, not Parma. Full stop, end of discussion. It's produced only in the province of Parma, from pork and sea salt and truly nothing else. Aged for a legal minimum of 14 months and very often stretched to 2 or even 3 full years. Then, tested by a master inspector who pushes a horsebone needle into the meat at 5 separate points and actually smells each one before the ham is ever allowed to wear that crown. This is the very ham that was locked out of America for 20 years. The one shoppers here were denied for so long that a whole generation simply forgot what the real thing tasted like. When it finally came back in 1989, the people who still remembered it wept in the shops. Find the crown, and you have found the one single meat on this entire list that physically cannot lie to you about where it came from. So here's the one rule to carry into the store with you, and it costs you absolutely nothing. At the deli, stop trusting the big Italian word printed on the front and start reading the small print on the back. The plain names, prosciutto, salami, Mortadella, capicola, pepperoni, Genoa, are free for anyone in the world to use. And the plain truth is, most of them are made right here at home. The real thing always ties itself to a place and then proves it. Prosciutto di Parma with the crown, Mortadella Bologna with the seal, Coppa di Parma, Capicola di Calabria. The words product of Italy printed somewhere you can actually point to. 2 ingredients on a prosciutto label? Just pork and salt. Tells you more about real Italy than any flag or crest they slap on the front. And understand me, there is nothing wrong with a good American salami. Volpe over in St. Louis has been making honest cured meat since 1902 and tells you flat out exactly where it's from. The problem is simple. You were charged an Italian price for meat that never left the country, and the label was designed so you wouldn't notice. A word can cross the ocean in a single second. The meat has to actually make the trip. If this changed the way you'll read that deli case, send it to the person in your family who buys the Sunday cold cuts. They've been paying for a country that never once showed up.